Well, hello once again. Let's start this video out correcting a mistake I made or bogus information I gave out in the last video. I had a discussion with Brendan, or I guess he had a discussion with me, and he said, no, that's not the way it works, John. It works this way, that way. All right, I think I see what's going on here. When you put your coins in, see right now it's in this position here. You cannot push these buttons in. They will not stay. But when you put your coin in, this retracts. And when this thing retracts, it moves this bar enough to where those buttons can now be pressed in. And then, of course, once the credit union says the money's in, it releases the signal and allows the buttons to pop back out. That's the way it works. Let's move on to something else. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and take off this solenoid and tear it apart. I only put it there temporarily to show you how it works. Well, not yet. Every time I look at this, I find something else, and I'm glad I am. Let me show you what we found this time. I want to get to tearing this thing apart, believe me. I hadn't noticed this before, but there are little round connectors. I thought they were soldered on, but this one here and this one here are push-on connectors, and they are corroded up to the max underneath there. I'm going to have to get those babies off and then clean those up inside and out and then put them back on. Let me get them off. How's that for nasty, huh? Oh man, I'm glad I saw that. There's the bottom one down there. Holy crow. Let me look around and see if there's any more. I don't think so. I think that's the end of them. We're going to clean them babies up now. Alright, that's much better, and that one's much better. They're clean inside now. I used lacquer thinner and a toothbrush. Just kind of scrubbed it real good. I didn't put a whole lot of lacquer thinner on it. I didn't want it to drip down there and start peeling the paint. And then I took a brass brush, my little brass brush here, just gently cleaned them all the way around. So they're clean inside. And I also took a pipe cleaner and went up inside that connector right there and got it nice and clean. So we're good to go on that, on both of those. I'm glad I found it. Alright, it's time to get to work on this latch solenoid. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze this cotter pin together, and then I'm going to remove the screws on the bottom of this thing. It's only a couple. And we're going to remove this completely, and then we'll dismantle this next. Alright, that's done. It's kind of interesting. Once I removed it, I realized that this thing here just sort of flops around. How about that, huh? This entire thing will come sliding out of here. We'll get to that later. I just don't want to mess with it right now. Let's finish. This thing here has a keeper on it, a keeper clip, if I get a little focus here. See that keeper clip? I'm going to have to remove it, and then the whole thing will come off, and we can start cleaning this mess up and get some grease on it, oil it, make it look good before we put it back together. Here's a little handy tip I picked up from someone on the internet. I can't remember who it was, and I think it was quite a while ago. When you remove these keepers, sometimes they, you pull too hard and they go flying off into no man's land. You never see them again. This guy, when he takes off his keepers like this, some of them are really tiny, he does it inside of a Walmart bag. And that way, if it goes flying, it stays inside the bag. Now, I thought that was a great idea. Guess what? It doesn't want to come out this way. The reason being is there is a burr. There's a burr all the way around these holes where they drilled them. You can't get it up through there. It won't go. So we're going to have to take the keeper off of this end. See if I can see the keeper on this end. And then we're going to have to pull it back through this way. How about them apples, huh? Alright, that's off. Now let's see if my brilliant piece of theory is correct. Should be able to get it out of there. There it is. Good to go. Time to clean. I've got some of the parts soaking on this thing. I want to soak them for a while. I clean them real good, but I still want to soak them a little bit in the apple rust. It'll maybe take off some of the plating, but that's okay. I can spray them with clear coat. Now this here doesn't come out. See it? Yeah, that's kind of cool, huh? So I don't have to worry about taking it out or putting it in the wrong way. That was neat. I cleaned it up best I could. Can't stick this down to Vapor Rust. I wish I could. So we'll set this to the side, and I want to point out something here that one of our good subscribers has caught, and the rest of you did not. Shame on you. The good subscriber is the one Ted Underhill. He mentioned that these clips right here that I have holding this wire bundle, actually this part, this little lip thing there sticking up, actually should go on the rear, not the front, which is the way it was originally set up, I guess. I haven't gone back and checked. But I do have some photographs that have been sent to me by Brendan of different things when we were discussing the operation of this latch solenoid. And I went back and looked at those pictures, and sure enough, old Ted is 100% right. So attaboy to him, tisk tisk to the rest of you. I'm going to change it right now. And that's it. I've turned them around the other way. The little, I don't know what you call it, just a little wing or some kind of pressure wing, I guess, or tab, pressure tab. This one stays down, facing the switches like it's supposed to. These two are now facing the rear. And like the one Ted Underhill said, you know, it might not make any difference, but you never know. And he's exactly right. You never know. I have to point something out here. This little deal here, this solenoid, this latch solenoid, this thing is really a complicated affair. It took a lot of brain power to come up with this thing. You just stare at it for a minute. You can't get it out. So if I remove this top rivet and bottom rivet that goes all the way through, let's say I went ahead and did that, how would it still come out? Because it's buried down in the coil itself. I get this camera to focus in. It goes way back in here and it's hitting on something. So even if I took this and this out, I don't know how that would come out. Also, this thing right here, this is really interesting. Look at that. If that thing were to break off, how would you ever change it? Even if you had one, how would you, if you remove this rivet and that rivet, you know, how would you, it wouldn't separate because that center bar is holding it together. How on earth would you separate that thing to get that little tab out of there? That is really a complicated thing. I don't think I've ever seen one quite like that. Well, I've been soaking our pieces and parts from that solenoid in some Vapor Rust for a couple hours. Let's see how we're doing here. Well, they're pretty clean, rust free anyway. They'll need a good washing. I think I'll just go ahead and soak them all night. Doesn't matter. Just let them soak all night. And I'll see you guys in the morning. The only thing left to do is remount our latch solenoid back to the back of the chassis. Put it in the bracket. I have the bracket right now in the garage drying. I clear coated everything with the exception of this because this thing here slides in and out of a hole on the bracket. We don't need to be gumming it up with paint and everything. That's made out of aluminum, by the way. Non-magnetic aluminum. Anyway, we'll go ahead and just mount it back on the back of the chassis. You saw how it goes. Piece of cake on that. No sense in going through it again. Once we get all of this stuff cleaned and put back together completely, and you know, the amplifiers had the capacitors changed and all that sort of crap, and the Tormat needs to be worked on. Oh, it's just once we get it all done, you know, and the rest of finishing up the mechanism, we're going to go ahead and clean this entire bench off, and the only thing that's going to be here are all the parts to the jukebox. The top of the bench is going to become the jukebox cabinet. Everything will be hooked up, the cables will be plugged in, we'll have records in the rack, and we're going to try to get it to work. And if it works fine on the bench, then we'll just put it in the cabinet and we'll be done. If it does not work fine on the bench, this is where the troubleshooting will take place, not in the cabinet. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and make this a shorter video. We'll go ahead and knock it off. And the next time we meet, we'll go ahead and start putting a bunch of parts inside the cabinet. I already hooked up this to the keyboard. And you can see the inside's been painted with a metallic color. This is left chrome over here. And actually, I shined it up as good as I could and then went ahead and clear coated it. And the bottom is black. And then we'll go ahead and hook up this bar, which this bar right here, which goes across the top of the speaker grill to hold it on. And we can go ahead and get the coin slot put on over here, and then this can come up from the bottom and hook to it. And you know, this thing here, this coin slot where the coins go in, can be bolted up to right here. We can do a few things tomorrow. I want to get all this stuff off of here. It's beginning to make me nervous. We're accumulating too much. So that's it for now. Until next time, this is John.